The wedding ring burned against her finger like a brand. Not because it was heavy though, the platinum band was studded with diamonds that probably cost more than her entire year's salary, but because she had absolutely no memory of putting it on. No memory of the vows, the kiss, the I do, that apparently sealed her fate. All she remembered was tequila, tears, and a devastatingly handsome stranger with eyes darker than midnight and a smile that promised both danger and salvation. Now, as morning light sliced through unfamiliar floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a soul she didn't recognize, Vera had to face an impossible truth. She'd woken up married to the one man in this city who could destroy her with a single word. And somehow, impossibly, she was about to fall completely in love with him. Last time, a heartbroken art curator stumbled into Seoul's underground world after one catastrophic night. A contract marriage meant to last 3 months became real when neither of them could walk away. Now, with enemies closing in and secrets unraveling, Vera and Taehyun must decide if their accidental love is worth dying for. Because in Taehyun Kang's world, love isn't just dangerous, it's a weakness that can get you killed. Sit back, relax, and get ready to join Vera and Taehyun on a journey where passion meets peril, and where the line between protection and possession becomes impossible to define. The phone rang at 3 a.m., shattering the silence of the penthouse like gunfire. Vera jerked awake, her heart hammering against her ribs as Taehyun's arm tightened around her waist. His body went rigid beside her, instantly alert in that terrifying way that reminded her exactly who she'd married. Kang, he answered in Korean, his voice cold enough to freeze blood. Then his grip on her tightened. When? How many? I want every camera feed pulled and every witness questioned. Nobody moves until I get there. Taehyun? Vera whispered, but he was already out of bed, moving through the darkness with predatory grace. Stay here, he ordered, pulling on clothes with efficient, practiced movements. Don't open the door for anyone except me or Jiwon. Nobody else. Do you understand? Fear crawled up her spine. What's happening? He paused at the bedroom door. The man who'd held her just moments ago, who'd whispered her name like a prayer while they made love, had vanished. In his place stood the Ghost of Gangnam, Seoul's most feared crime lord, the man whose name made grown men weep. Someone hit one of my warehouses. 3 of my men are dead. His voice was eerily calm, which somehow made it worse. This is a message, a declaration of war, which means you're in danger. Me? Why would I? Because you're mine. The possessiveness in his tone should have terrified her. Instead, it sent heat flooding through her veins. Because whoever did this knows the fastest way to hurt me is through. So you stay here, you stay safe, and you let me handle this. Can you do that? Vera swallowed hard and nodded. Be careful. Something flickered across his face, too quick to name. Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him with a finality that made her chest ache. She sat in the darkness, listening to the sound of vehicles roaring away from the building, and tried to remember how she'd gotten here, how one terrible night had led to this impossible life. 3 months ago, Vera had been someone else entirely, a successful art curator at Seoul's premier gallery, engaged to Kim Min-sok, her college sweetheart and the man she'd planned to spend forever with. Her life had been predictable, safe, carefully curated like the exhibitions she managed. Then she'd walked into their apartment early, excited to surprise him with tickets to Jeju Island, and found him in their bed with her assistant. The betrayal had shattered something fundamental inside her. Not just her trust, but her entire understanding of who she was. She'd been good, careful, perfect. She'd followed every rule, met every expectation, and it hadn't mattered. He'd cheated anyway. So that night, she'd done something she'd never done before. She'd gotten spectacularly, devastatingly drunk at a bar in Itaewon, spending money she couldn't afford on shots that burned going down and made the pain almost bearable. And that's where she'd met him. Taehyun had been sitting alone at the far end of the bar, nursing whiskey and watching the crowd with eyes that saw too much. He was beautiful in a way that was almost painful to look at, sharp jawline, perfect features, an aura of danger that should have sent her running. Instead, she'd stumbled over, drunk and furious and desperate to feel anything other than heartbreak. You look like someone who makes terrible decisions, she'd announced, sliding onto the stool beside him. He'd turned those dark eyes on her, and she'd felt the impact like a physical blow. I am someone who makes terrible decisions, he'd replied in perfect English. You should probably leave. What if I don't want to leave? What if I want to make terrible decisions too? A smile had curved his lips, dangerous and beautiful. Then you've come to the right place. The details after that were fuzzy. She remembered laughing, remembered the way he'd listened to her rant about Minseok, about betrayal, about how she was tired of being good. She remembered him suggesting they do something crazy, and she remembered saying yes. What she didn't remember was the 24-hour wedding chapel, the vows exchanged in slurred Korean and English, the certificate she'd signed with a flourish, feeling bold and reckless and free. She didn't remember any of it until she woke up the next morning in a penthouse that cost more than her childhood home, wearing a wedding ring that probably cost more than her car, with a pounding headache and a devastating stranger sleeping beside. "Oh God," she'd whispered, staring at the ring. "Oh God, oh God, oh God. That's not my name," a rough voice had said from beside her. "Though you did scream it quite a lot last night." She'd turned to find him watching her with amusement and something darker. In the morning light, he'd been even more devastating, all lean muscle and dangerous beauty. "Who are you? What did we do?" "My name is Kang Taehyun, and according to this marriage certificate, we got married last night." "Congratulations, Mrs. Kang." The panic that followed had been immediate and overwhelming. She demanded an annulment, a divorce, anything to undo this disaster. But Taehyun had simply watched her spiral with unsettling calm, then delivered the blow that changed everything. "I have a proposition for you. Stay married to me for 3 months. In exchange, I'll pay off your student loans, give you a lump sum of 200 million won, and ensure your ex-boyfriend regrets ever crossing you. After 2 months, we part ways quietly. No annulment scandal, no questions asked. You get a fresh start, and I get what I need." What could you possibly need from a fake marriage? His smile had been sharp enough to cut. "Let's just say appearances matter in my line of work. A wife makes me look stable, trustworthy, less likely to be the kind of man my business associates should fear. 3 months, Vera. Then you're free." She should have run. Should have demanded answers about what line of work required a fake wife. But she'd been desperate, broke, and so tired of playing it safe. So she'd agreed. 3 months of pretending to be married to a stranger in exchange for a new life. She'd had no idea she was agreeing to marry Seoul's most dangerous man. No idea that Kang Taehyun was the Ghost of Gangnam, the Shadow King who controlled everything from nightclubs to shipping routes, the man police couldn't touch and rivals didn't dare challenge. She'd discovered the truth 2 weeks in, when armed men had burst into a restaurant where they were having lunch, and Taehyun had handled them with terrifying efficiency. "You're a criminal," she'd said later, voice shaking. "I'm a businessman," he'd corrected, cleaning his knuckles. "The business just happens to be complicated." She should have left then, but she'd been bound by their contract, by the money she desperately needed, and by something far more dangerous. She was starting to care about him, about the way he made sure she ate breakfast, about how he listened when she talked about art, about the rare smiles that transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. Now, 3 months later, their contract was technically over. She could leave any time. The money was in her account, her debts paid off, her freedom was waiting. But instead, she was sitting in his penthouse at 3 a.m., terrified because someone had declared war on the man she'd accidentally fallen in love with. Vera stood up and moved to the window, looking out over Seoul's glittering skyline. The city looked peaceful from up here, beautiful in its ordered chaos. But she knew better now. She understood that beneath all that beauty lurked danger, violence, and men like Taehyun who controlled it all. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jiwon, Taehyun's second in command and the woman who'd become her unlikely friend. "He's fine. Situation contained. But stay inside. Someone's testing boundaries." Another text followed immediately. "How are you holding up?" Vera typed back. "Scared. Angry. Confused about why I'm still here when I could leave." "Because you love him, you idiot. And he loves you. The rest is just details." Was it love? Vera pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Or was it Stockholm Syndrome, trauma bonding, or just really good sex? How did you know the difference between love and survival instinct when your entire relationship started with tequila and bad decisions? The door opened behind her. She turned to find Taehyun standing there, blood on his shirt, exhaustion in every line of his body. Without thinking, she crossed to him. "Are you hurt?" "Not my blood." He caught her hands as she reached for his shirt. "Vera, we need to talk." Those 4 words sent ice through her veins. That sounds ominous. Our contract is over. Has been for 2 weeks. His thumb traced circles on her wrist, a contrast to the gravity in his voice. You're free to go. I'll keep my promises, the money, the security, all of it. But you need to decide if you're staying because you want to or because you feel trapped. Someone just attacked your warehouse and you're giving me an exit speech? Especially because someone attacked my warehouse. He pulled her closer, his hands framing her face with surprising gentleness. This is my world, Vera. Violence, danger, enemies who won't hesitate to hurt you to get to me. I can't ask you to stay in that. I won't. She stared up at him, this dangerous man who'd somehow become her everything. What if I want to stay? Then you need to understand what that means. No more pretending this is temporary. No more exit strategies. You're either in completely or you're out. And I need to know which because I can't protect you if you're halfway gone. And what about you? Her voice shook slightly. Are you in completely? Or am I just a useful cover story who got too comfortable? For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he laughed, a sound without humor. Vera, I've been completely fucked since the moment you stumbled into that bar. Since you looked at me with those eyes and challenged me to be reckless. I tried to keep it professional, keep my distance. Remember, this was just a contract. But you made that impossible. How? By being you. Brilliant, brave, beautiful, utterly infuriating you. By redecorating my penthouse and bringing color into spaces that had only ever been black and white. By making me laugh. Making me think about a future beyond the next deal, the next territory dispute. You made me want things I'd stopped believing in, and that terrifies me more than any enemy ever could. Vera's breath caught. Taehyun, I love you. The words were rough, like they'd been dragged from somewhere deep and painful. I love you in a way that makes me weak, makes me vulnerable, makes me the kind of target every ambitious underboss dreams of, and I'm terrified that loving you will get you killed. So if you want out, this is your chance. After tonight, if you stay, you're mine completely. And I don't let go of what's mine. The possessiveness should have scared her. Instead, it set something fierce burning in her chest. What if I don't want you to let go? What if I love you too? Even though you're dangerous and commanding and absolutely terrible at expressing emotions without threatening people. Then you're even more reckless than I thought. But his smile was genuine now, bright enough to push back the weight, darkness. And you're definitely too good for me. Probably. She rose on her toes, pressing her lips to his. But I'm staying anyway. Not because of the contract, not because I feel trapped, but because apparently I make terrible decisions when it comes to devastatingly handsome criminals. He kissed her back with bruising intensity, tasting like desperation and relief. When they parted, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. This won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. You might die being married to me. I might die crossing the street. At least this way, I die doing something interesting. You're insane. Probably. But I'm your kind of insane. He pulled her tight against his chest, one hand sliding into her hair. My kind of insane, he repeated softly. I can work with that. If you're already hooked and want to see how Vera's decision to stay transforms her from accidental bride to queen of Seoul's underworld, hit that subscribe button, right now. This story gets even more dangerous, more passionate, and way more complicated. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. 4 weeks later, Vera stood in front of a room full of Seoul's most dangerous men, wearing a dress that cost more than her first car and channeling a confidence she absolutely did not feel. Taehyun had asked her to attend this meeting, to be introduced formally as his wife to his organization. She'd agreed before understanding what that actually meant. Now, facing dozens of hard eyes assessing her worth, she wanted to run, but she was done running. Done being the good girl who played it safe. If she was going to be Kang Taehyun's wife, she'd do it properly. Gentlemen, Taehyun's voice cut through the murmurs. My wife, Vera Kang. The introduction was simple, but the message was clear. She wasn't just his wife, she was under his protection, part of his empire, untouchable. Anyone who came for her came for him. One man, older with a scar, bisecting his face, leaned forward. With respect, boss, isn't a wife a liability? Someone our enemies can use against you? Tension flooded the room, but Vera spoke before Taehyun could respond. With respect, that assumes I'm helpless. I'm not. She met the scarred man's eyes steadily. I chose this life knowing the risks. I'm not a liability, I'm an asset. I speak 3 languages, have connections in Seoul's art world that extend internationally, and I'm smart enough to know when to step back and when to stand my ground. Underestimate me if you want, but do it at your own risk. Silence. Then surprisingly, the scarred man laughed. I like her, boss. She's got spine. Other voices murmured agreement. Taehyun's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. Pride and approval radiated from him in waves that made her feel invincible. The meeting continued with business discussions about territory, shipments, and alliances. Vera listened carefully, understanding that knowledge was survival in this world. She noticed how Taehyun commanded the room without raising his voice, how loyalty and fear combined to make him untouchable. And she noticed something else: whispers about the Crimson Tigers, a rival gang that had been making moves in Taehyun's territory. After the meeting, in the privacy of their car, Taehyun pulled her into his lap. You were magnificent. I was terrified. You didn't show it. You stood there like you owned the room, like you were born to be at my side. He kissed her neck, making her shiver. You're going to be dangerous for me, Vera. It's Vera Kang now, she corrected, adjusting the wedding ring she'd never taken off. And I plan to be very dangerous indeed. His laugh was low and dark. That's my girl. But the victory was short-lived. That night, as they returned to the penthouse, Jiwon was waiting with an expression that promised bad news. We have a problem, she said without preamble. The Crimson Tigers aren't just testing boundaries anymore. They've made a move for the shipping docks. More importantly, they've put out word that they're looking for leverage against you. Let them look, Taehyun said coldly. They won't find anything. Taehyun. Jiwon's voice was gentle but firm. They know about Vera. They know she's not just a contract wife anymore. There's already talk on the street about targeting her. Vera felt ice flood her veins, but she forced herself to stay calm. So what do we do? Both Taehyun and Jiwon turned to look at her. We? Taehyun asked carefully. Yes, we. I'm not hiding while you handle this. If they're coming for me, I deserve to be part of the plan. She crossed her arms, channeling every ounce of confidence she could muster. You said if I stayed, I was in completely. That means I don't get to be protected like fragile China. I get to be involved. Jiwon grinned. I really do like her. Taehyun looked torn between pride, frustration, and fear. Vera, this isn't a game. These people don't play by rules. They will hurt you in ways you can't imagine just to send me a message. I know that. I'm not naive, not anymore. But I'm also not useless. Let me help. I have skills you need. What skills could possibly? I'm connected to Seoul's elite through the art world, Vera interrupted. Politicians' wives, business executives, diplomats, they all collect art. I know their secrets, their affairs, their vulnerabilities. That's information you can use. And more importantly, I can move in circles you can't without raising suspicion. Let me be your eyes and ears where you can't go. Silence stretched between them. Then Jiwon spoke up. She has a point, Taehyun. The Tigers are moving in high society circles now, using legitimate businesses as cover. Having someone on the inside who knows that world could be invaluable. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. Everything is too dangerous, Vera countered. But this is my choice. Either trust me to handle it or admit you see me as a liability after all. That hit its mark. Taehyun's jaw clenched. That's not fair. Neither is asking me to stay in a gilded cage while you risk your life. She stepped closer, placing her hand over his heart. I love you. That means I fight beside you, not behind you. Please, Taehyun. Trust me. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then he sighed, the sound carrying the weight of surrender. Fine, but you follow protocols, you check in every hour, and you never, ever put yourself in direct danger. The moment something feels wrong, you run. Deal? Deal. Jiwon clapped her hands together. Excellent. Now let's plan how to make the Crimson Tigers regret ever hearing the name Kang. The next 2 weeks were a crash course in survival. Jiwon taught Vera self-defense, how to spot a tail, how to communicate in code. Taehyun taught her the structure of his organization, who to trust and who was always looking for an enable opportunity to betray him. And Vera used her position in the art world to gather information, attending gallery openings and charity events where Seoul's elite gossiped freely. She discovered the Crimson Tigers were laundering money through art acquisitions. She learned which politicians were on their payroll. She uncovered a shipping route they planned to sabotage. And she fed all of it back to Taehyun, watching him use the information to systematically dismantle their operations. "You're terrifying," he told her one night after she'd exposed a tiger-backed gallery trying to infiltrate Seoul's art scene. "Absolutely terrifying and magnificent." "I learned from the best," she replied, kissing him softly. "You showed me how to be dangerous. I just applied it differently." But their victory came with a price. The Tigers realized someone was feeding information to Taehyun, and they started looking for the leak. Vera was careful, always careful, but careful only goes so far when you're playing with predators. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. Vera was at the gallery, discussing a new exhibition with the director, when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "We know what you've been doing. If you want to see tomorrow, come alone to Namdaemun Market at 8 p.m. Tell anyone," and people start dying. Her blood turned to ice. This was it, the moment she'd been trained for but never truly believed would come. She should call Taehyun immediately. That was the protocol. But the message was clear. Tell anyone, and people die. They probably had eyes on her right now, watching to see what she'd do. Vera made a decision. She'd go to the meeting, but she'd be smart about it. She texted Jiwon using their code a simple message about needing to grab groceries. Jiwon would understand. She'd know something was wrong and would mobilize the team without being obvious about it. Then Vera went to face whatever waited for her at Namdaemun Market. The market was crowded even at night, tourists and locals alike browsing stalls selling everything from traditional snacks to knockoff designer bags. Vera moved through the crowd, every sense on high alert, looking for threats in every shadow. "Mrs. Kang." A voice spoke behind her, low and dangerous. "This way, please." She turned to find a man in an expensive suit, his smile cold. "You're brave to come alone. You said people would die if I didn't. Smart and brave. I can see why Kang Taehyun is so possessive." He gestured toward a black sedan parked nearby. "Get in. Someone wants to talk to you." Every instinct screamed at her to run. But she thought about the training, about staying calm, about buying time for Jiwon's team to arrive. So she got in the car, her heart hammering against her ribs. The drive was short, ending at a warehouse in an industrial area. They led her inside to where a man waited, older and distinguished, smoking a cigarette that filled the space with acrid smoke. "Mrs. Kang," he said in Korean, his accent placing him from Busan. "Thank you for accepting my invitation. You didn't leave much choice." "True." He stubbed out the cigarette. "I am Jin Dae-won, head of the Crimson Tigers. And you've been causing me a great deal of trouble." Vera forced herself to stay calm. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult my intelligence. You've been feeding information to your husband, information that's cost me millions and made me look weak to my organization. That stops now. Or what? Or I send pieces of you back to Kang Taehyun until he learns to respect boundaries." His smile was reptilian. "Unless you're willing to be reasonable. Define reasonable. Work for me instead. Feed him false information. Lead him into traps. Help me destroy him from the inside." He circled her slowly. "In exchange, I let you live. I even let you keep your marriage, though it'll be to a dead man soon enough." Vera's mind raced. She needed to buy time, but she also needed to make this convincing. "Why would I betray my husband? Because you're smart enough to know which side is winning. The Tigers are taking over Seoul. Taehyun is a dinosaur, clinging to old ways and old power. Join the winning team, Mrs. Kang, or die with the losing one." Before she could respond, the warehouse exploded with sound. Glass shattered, doors burst open, and suddenly men in tactical gear poured in from every direction. Gunfire erupted, deafening in the enclosed space. Someone grabbed Vera, pulling her down behind a crate. She looked up to find Taehyun, his face a mask of fury and fear. "Are you insane? Coming here alone?" "I wasn't alone. I trusted Jiwon to understand my message." She pressed herself against him as bullets flew overhead. "Did you really think I'd be stupid enough to walk into a trap without a plan? Your plan could have gotten you killed. But it didn't. And now you have Jin Dae-won right where you want him." His eyes widened with understanding. "You're using yourself as bait." "I learned from the best," she repeated, echoing her earlier words. Now can we finish this so I can go home? I have an exhibition opening tomorrow and I need to not be dead for it. Despite everything, the danger, the gunfire, the absolute insanity of the situation, Taehyun laughed. Then he kissed her hard and fast before standing up. Jiwon, secure the perimeter. I want Day One alive. The fight was brutal but quick. Taehyun's men had the element of surprise and superior training. Within minutes, the tigers were subdued, and Jin Daewon was on his knees, bleeding from a head wound and looking significantly less confident. You used your wife as bait, he spat at Taehyun. What kind of man? The kind who trusts his wife to be brilliant, brave, and more strategic than my enemies. Taehyun crouched in front of him. You thought she was my weakness. But she's my strength. And you just learned that lesson too. Late. He stood, addressing his men. Get him out of here. We have questions he's going to answer. And I'm not in a patient mood. As they dragged Daewon away, Taehyun turned to Vera. She was shaking now, adrenaline crashing as the reality of what just happened sank in. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Don't ever do that again, he whispered against her hair. Please. I can handle enemies, rival gangs, every threat Seoul can throw at me, but I can't handle the thought of losing you. I'm sorry I scared you. But I'm not sorry I did it. He needed to believe I was vulnerable, that I could be turned. That was our advantage. You're terrifying, he said again, pulling back to look at her. Absolutely terrifying. Good. She managed a shaky smile. Means I'm doing something right. Jiwon approached, her expression caught between admiration and exasperation. That was either brilliant or insane. I'm still deciding which. Can't it be both? Vera asked. With you? Probably. Jiwon grinned. Welcome to the family business, Mrs. Kang. You're officially one of us now. That night, back in the safety of the penthouse, Vera stood in the shower letting the hot water wash away the fear and tension. Her hands finally stopped shaking, replaced by a strange sense of calm. She'd faced death and won. She'd proven she could survive in Taehyun's world. She'd stopped being the victim and become a player in the game. Taehyun joined her in the shower, his hands gentle as they traced the bruises forming on her arms where she'd been grabbed. Does it hurt? I'll live. She leaned into his touch. Are you angry with me? I should be. I want to be. But mostly I'm just grateful you're alive. He tilted her face up to his. Promise me something. Next time you walk into danger, at least tell me first. I can't protect you if I don't know where you are. I'll try. But sometimes protection means letting me take risks. I know. Doesn't mean I have to like it. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, finally her lips. I love you, even when you're being reckless and giving me heart attacks. I love you too, even when you're being overprotective and bossy. I'm not bossy. I'm cautious. You're absolutely bossy. But she was smiling as she said it, and I wouldn't have you any other way. They made love slowly, carefully, a reaffirmation of life and love after facing death. And afterward, wrapped in expensive sheets with Seoul sparkling outside their windows, Vera realized something profound. She was happy. Not despite the danger, but somehow because of it. She'd found purpose, found love, found herself in the most unlikely place. What are you thinking about? Taehyun asked, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her spine. How different my life is now. 6 months ago, I was planning a safe, boring future with a man who didn't deserve me. Now I'm married to Seoul's most dangerous man, taking down rival, gangs, and living a life I never imagined possible. Do you regret it? Any of it? She turned in his arms to face him. Not even a little bit. This life is dangerous and complicated and absolutely insane, but it's also real in a way nothing in my old life ever was. I'm not playing a part anymore, not trying to be someone I'm not. With you, I get to be completely myself, messy, reckless, brave, scared, all of it. Because you trust me enough to let me. That means everything. He pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. I do trust you, even when it terrifies me, even when every instinct says to lock you away where nothing can touch you. I trust you to know your limits, to be smart, to survive. We're going to be okay, Vera whispered. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Together, he agreed. Always. Hit that like button if you're rooting for Vera and Taehyun to build their dangerous empire together. Subscribe to see what happens when Seoul's underworld realizes Mrs. Kang is not someone to be underestimated. And drop a comment. Would you walk into danger for the person you love? Let me know your thoughts below. 3 months later, the Crimson Tigers were history. With Jin Daewon in custody and his organization dismantled, Taehyun had consolidated power in a way that made him untouchable. But more importantly, he'd done it with Vera at his side, proving that she was more than just a wife, she was a partner, an asset, an equal in every way that mattered. Vera stood in her newly renovated gallery space, admiring the clean lines and perfect lighting. Taehyun had bought the building outright, giving her the space to create something entirely hers. The opening exhibition was tonight a showcase of emerging Korean artists that had attracted attention from collectors worldwide. It's beautiful, Jiwon said, walking through the space with approval. You've done something amazing here. Thank you. I wanted to create something legitimate, something that could exist completely separate from Taehyun's world while still being connected to it. Vera gestured to the artwork on the walls. These artists deserve recognition, and this gallery can be a front for moving information, meeting contacts, laundering money if needed. Function and art in perfect balance. You're getting scary good at this double life thing. I had good teachers. Vera smiled. How's the investigation into the police commissioner going? Solid. We should have enough evidence to bury him within the month. He's been taking bribes from what's left of the Tigers, trying to rebuild their operations. But thanks to your gallery connections and the evidence we're gathering, he'll be finished soon. Good. We can't have corrupt officials thinking they can play both sides. Jiwon studied her for a moment. You've changed. When Taehyun first introduced you, I thought you'd had run within a month. That you couldn't handle this world. I was wrong. So was I. Vera admitted. I thought I knew who I was, safe, careful, predictable. Turns out I was just waiting for permission to be someone else. Someone braver. Taehyun gave you that permission? No. He gave me the opportunity. I gave myself permission. She checked her watch. The opening is in 2 hours. Where is he? Meeting with his underbosses. Should be done soon. You know how he gets about these things, has to personally approve every security detail. As if summoned, Taehyun walked through the gallery entrance, looking devastating in a black suit. His eyes found Vera immediately, and the heat in his gaze made her breath catch. It's perfect, he said, taking in the space. You've outdone yourself. I had help. She crossed to him, accepting his kiss with a smile. And unlimited funding didn't hurt. Only the best for my wife. He turned to Jiwon. Everything ready for tonight? 20. Guards in plain clothes, cameras on every entrance, and I'll be monitoring from the security room. Nobody gets in without being screened. Your wife will be safe. Good, because half of Seoul's elite will be here, including some people who'd love to take a shot at me through her. His arm slid around Vera's waist, possessive and protective. I'm not taking chances. I can take care of myself, Vera reminded him. We've proven that. Doesn't mean I don't worry. He pulled her closer. I'm allowed to worry about my wife. Fair enough. I worry about you too. Jiwon made a gagging sound. You two are disgustingly cute. I'm going to check the perimeter before I vomit. After she left, Vera and Taehyun stood together in the empty gallery, surrounded by art and possibility. Are you happy? She asked quietly. Are you? I asked first. He smiled, genuine and warm. Yes, happier than I ever thought possible. You've given me something I didn't know I was missing. What's that? A reason to want more than just survival. Before you, I was just holding territory, maintaining power, existing. Now I'm building something. Creating something. Living, not just surviving. Tears pricked Vera's eyes. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said to me. The truth usually is. He kissed her forehead. Thank you for staying. For choosing this life, this danger. Me. Thank you for being brave enough to take a chance on a terrible decision that turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you for being worth the risk. That night, the gallery opening was a spectacular success. Seoul's elite mingled with underground figures, collectors admired the art, and Vera moved through it all with confidence and grace. She'd found her place in this world, neither fully legitimate nor fully criminal, but something in between, something uniquely hers. And when Taehyun pulled her aside during the party, into a quiet corner where they could steal a moment alone, she realized something profound. She'd woken up 6 months ago with a wedding ring she didn't remember putting on, married to a man who terrified her. Now that same ring felt like a promise. That same man felt like home. "Dance with me," he murmured, pulling her close even though there was no music playing. "There's no music. Then we'll make our own." They swayed together in the shadows, holding onto each other while the party continued without them. Two people who'd started with a terrible decision and built something beautiful from the wreckage. A love story that defied every expectation, survived every threat, and emerged stronger for it. "I love you," Vera whispered against his chest. "My beautiful, dangerous, impossible husband." "I love you more," Taehyun replied. "My brave, brilliant, absolutely insane wife. We're perfect for each other. Perfectly matched in our terrible decisions. The best terrible decision I ever made." "Mine too," he kissed the top of her head. "Mine too." So there you have it. From a drunken night in Itaewon to becoming queen of Seoul's underworld, Vera proved that sometimes the worst decisions lead to the most extraordinary lives. If their story made you believe that love can survive anything, even criminal empires and rival gangs, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about dangerous men, brave women, and love that defies every odd. And drop a comment. What would you do if you woke up married to Seoul's most feared mafia boss? Would you run or would you stay and build an empire? Let me know below. Thanks for watching. And remember, the best love stories start with the worst decisions. Sometimes you just have to be brave enough to see where the danger takes you.